The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, and thank you all for joining today's webinar on InterForm and Guide XA FormPacks. We also want to thank XA User Board for collaborating with us on this 4-part Infor XA web series and for getting the word out to the rest of the channel. For those of you who aren't familiar, we are Guide Technologies. We are a Infor Gold channel partner specializing in Infor ERPs specifically for the industrial manufacturing industry. During today's webinar, all lines will be muted, and we ask that you use the question box to ask questions throughout the presentation, and they will be answered at the end. Without further ado, I will pass it off to Rick, who will kick us off.
Very good.
Rick?
Very good. Hello, everybody. I'm Rick Altenow with Guide Technologies. And are you seeing my screen? Just confirming, Elsa.
Yes, I am.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Elsa, for getting this thing started. I'm Rick Altenow with Guide Technologies. We're looking forward to showing you a little bit about the newest XA application, which is a licensed product from InterForm, and how Guide Technologies has been expanding its capabilities so it can fit into your XA environment as quickly as possible. Carlos and Vic will be on the call in just a few minutes, and they are going to walk us through a specific demo. I'm going to start out with a little bit of an overview, just so that we understand what it is that we're talking about, what is forms management, what is InterForm, and we will then go into a specific product demo so that you can see what this is. First of all, those of you that have been running XA for a long period of time know that directly out of the box, it is still using impact forms, multi-part forms, pre-printed forms, things that are quite expensive, and it has, excuse me, the I-Series printers can be expensive also. There's higher maintenance associated with them, and buying pre-printed forms is not inexpensive either. A lot of companies easily spend $5,000 to $20,000 a year just in buying pre-printed forms. So getting rid of that cost is an option today that we want to make sure that you're aware of and how it can fit into your environment. So if your present system looks like something like this, with a form that's pre-printed and you're just printing data on it, and you have lots and lots of file cabinets, there are better options. And we're going to be talking about InterForm, which creates those forms, but this works very well with Infor document management so that we can also get rid of those paper forms. Today, we're going to be talking about the forms output itself. So what is forms management? It is the electronic control of all reports that come out of your system, not just your XA reports. So if you're printing a label, if you are printing MSDS sheets, if you're printing anything that's coming from a PC, coming from the I-Series, coming from XA, and you are using forms, we can create those forms for you. The forms themselves don't need to be paper forms, they can be PDFs. They have the ability to be distributed, so they can go to a fax machine for those of you who are still running those things, or more likely go directly to email and send to your vendors, send to your customers. And then of course the key is to archive them so that I don't want to have all those file cabinets anymore. I want to be able to have it in my system and be able to pull up the actual form. If I'm in history and looking at a customer order, I want to see the acknowledgement. I want to see the purchase order that came in from the customer. I want to see everything associated with it in that paperless environment. But for today, we're going to talk about forms management from XA. How do we format it? How do we print it or distribute it? And how do we archive it? With that being said, some of you may have products that already do this. In the past, Infor has used IntelliChief Formtastic, but there are a number of other products on the market that you may already have. I'm just letting you know that if you have one of these or many other products, these aren't going away. You can continue using and producing your forms using these tools. You've bought them as a third party, you've added them in, they're completely available. What we're announcing here, though, is a new formal relationship between Infor and InterForm, more specifically between XA and InterForm. This is now available to you through your affiliate, through Infor, as an XA application. Real quick, who is InterForm? They're a company that is from Europe. They have been around for a long time, and they actually have a number of XA installs throughout Europe. It has been a standard for forms management in the XA world in Europe for a while. They have a number of offices. They have 3,800 customers. So it is a well-established company, and it is now going to be licensed through Infor as an official XA application. It's not just XA that Infor works with. They have relationships with Infor on a much broader basis. So you can recognize a number of these ERPs that are up there. For those of you that may be in automotive, they have a complete interface into auto release through XA, all the labels, all the requirements that come through there. So they have the interfaces into all these applications. What we're going to show you today is that forms creation through XA. So what does InterForm do? We can break this down on one screen and summarize it really well. This is that screen. First of all, we just talked about the 3 different areas. One, we can format reports. Yes, we can still print reports. Whether you want it on a regular printer, a dot matrix printer, a laser printer, inkjet printer, label printers, RFID, all those kinds of things, we support any type of printer. And in fact, InterForm is very good at using the fonts and the capabilities of the printers you have. You don't need to download anything special to make these work. It will use all of the existing software of that equipment. So we can create the form. The difference is now we're creating the full form. It's printing on a white piece of paper. So there is no need to buy a pre-printed form. We can create the whole thing for you. From there, we don't have to print it. We could create it as a PDF. And if you have forms that you're tying into workflows or any other secured forms, we can create digital signature forms. So InterForm really creates not just the printed copy, but the PDF behind it. So that allows you to have something to file, to have. You don't have to print a form, scan it, attach it to an email, and then send it to a customer. You can, when you print a form, like an invoice, simply have it, instead of send to a printer, send automatically to the email address you have on file for that invoice. So it automates the whole process. Then it can save a copy of that invoice in your system so that you can reference it. Now, as long as we're sending information, sometimes the information we're sending doesn't need to be in a form format. So we can send out data as XML. If you're sending to a business partner and you want to send out XML, if you want to send something and load it into Excel, if you want to create some sort of data interface, InterForm supports that also. Once we have our form, whether it's printed, PDF, or in data format, how do we want to distribute it? We, of course, can print it and you can still mail it, but we support fax, mail merge, email processing, everything that you have to distribute forms is available through this product. So it handles that function. And then, of course, what do we do with it? We need to archive it. Where are we going to save it? How are we going to save it? Right now, you have the ability to archive forms in IDF in your iSeries product. So this will work not only with XA, but with any of the iSeries products, but you can send this thing as an attachment and put it right into your IDF. The other thing that's key here is this has a direct interface into Infor document management. So when we're archiving this document, excuse me, we don't just have to talk about how we're putting it into our ERP, we can put it into a full document management system. So it supports all those functions. And by the way, when we do these different tools, we can do multiple ones simultaneously. We can send a copy of a form to a printer in the sales department, send another copy, a different type of format with different data on it, to the accounting department, and in the meantime, email a customer copy. So we have the ability to create multiple formats and process them all with the same form. So this is what InterForm does. It creates these documents. Now, InterForm by itself creates a document. You need to format it. It doesn't come formatted for you. This is where we have partnered with InterForm, and we have created a FormPack. What a FormPack is part of what you're going to see today is a demo, but it is a form that's completely ready for you to go. All you need to do is have us or you put your logo on the form, and if you have legal terms and things that you want in the back of the form, you can load those too. But the form itself is completely prepared, ready to go out of the box, so that you can get this product, get it installed, and get it operational very quickly. Now, you have the complete ability to modify those forms or create your own forms. You can do whatever you want with this. We're just giving you a starter pack for the standard forms that come out of XA. So in this particular example, obviously we have our guide logo on it, but this would be your customer logo. And you can see we're printing checks. I've got an acknowledgement here. We have a packing list over here. We have a number of different forms, and we're expanding the number of forms that we're going to be creating. So the FormPack is a direct interface for XA. But I'm going to repeat what I just said. You're not limited to this. You can modify the forms if you want to, or you can create your own. And you're not limited to forms created from XA. Any form, any label, any barcode, anything that you're using in your system today, we can generate using this tool. So if you buy this product, which you would buy from Infor, it comes with 2 license codes. The first license code is the forms that are generated by XA, spool to XML. We convert those forms, we use it, and then we have the form management tool itself. So there's 2 license programs that go along in there. Guide Technologies is offering the FormPack. When you buy from InterForm, when you buy from Infor, you're buying the format, you're buying the tool. When you buy from Guide, you're buying the XA interface with that form already created. With that, that's my introduction. I just wanted to give you an idea of what does InterForm do. I'd like to turn this over to Carlos, who's going to get a little bit more specific about the overview of what the FormPack is and how it works. And then we'll turn it over to Vic, who will actually give you a product demo. So with that, Carlos, I'm turning it over to you.
Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
All right, great. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Rick, for a great presentation there. I'm going to cover the XA, the Guide Technologies XA FormPack more specifically today. And I think I just want to make sure that everyone understands the reason why this is a valuable product to have and why it's important to you as a customer, and what we are going to be doing with it as we progress with the product in the future. So as Rick mentioned, that we have generated a series of pre-built forms, and we do allow for changes not only to the logo, but in some cases we have other pieces of information on the form already pre-built that may have to be modified. And so there's certain things that I consider to be customer-facing information that you see on the front page of the form that would probably be all modified as part of the install. So we have developed this FormPack so the customer does not have to. And of course, there is an initial license fee and an annual license fee associated with it. But the reason that we created this is various. First of all, there's no conversion tool that's going to take your forms from a spool file into InterForm. And you have to have somewhat of a developer mentality to understand how forms are set up within XA, because in a case like an acknowledgement form, you may have a different, I would say somewhere around 50 to 60 different formats that are available to you. And so you have to understand which ones you are working with to make this all work. So initially, our initial rollout is actually 5 different forms that we've created. There's purchase orders, sales orders, and acknowledgements, packing slips, invoices, and AP checks. Now, you'll notice that I have a packing slip with an asterisk. And the reason for that is that for purchase orders, sales orders, invoice, and AP checks, we've taken all the formats that are available. And this is where you may have a setup configuration difference as far as how you use a PO versus someone else. So we've taken all that into account and spent many hours testing all the different variations to come up with a standard form that includes everything. The only one that we have not completed to that level is the pack slip, because there is so many numerous variations, and in some cases only 1 or 2 customers may only use some of those functions, so we would only do those if necessary. But otherwise, we have tested every single capability associated with setup to make sure that you get a package that includes whatever it is that you do when you set up your forms for printing. So we have spent numerous hours actually going through and testing the different variations. We have also made sure that when you get this Infor XA FormPack, that it automatically archives the form into the IFS. So it's not something that has to be set up. That's just going to be automatic with the way the forms are designed. And we have set up preset routines for emailing. It's something that has to be activated because not everyone uses the same fields for setting up their email addresses. So it's something that has to be considered. But we have the capability in there preset so that once it's activated, it starts emailing. We also designed this with the ability to utilize the Infor XA printer override functionality to establish the number of copies, whether you have duplex, whether you want to hold it, save it. All that functionality actually has been set up to be driven from the Infor cross-app menus so that you would use features, functions that are already available to you within XA. So why is this valuable to our customers? Well, one of the things is that we give you these forms and they are pretty much ready to be used within days. It's not going to take you weeks or months to develop the forms. So you purchase the product and within a very short period of time, you can be up and running and actually transition away from your current pre-printed forms to a much more flexible methodology. We have developed this using standard XA formatting. Because we have spent so many hours testing it, that you would be able to, with assurance that without having to go through and say, I set it up this way, will it work? We have made sure that it works under your conditions. And really all that's needed is to change the logos and any other static images or T&C type verbiage that we might find in certain parts of the form to make it available for most customers' use. So what's the customer gain by purchasing this product? Well, we've taken care of probably 95% of all the development that you would have to put into the forms. Once again, they are archive ready. In other words, when you install the form, it starts archiving immediately, so that way you don't have to set that up. And if you want emailing, then we have to just make sure that the email address is in the right spot, and then it can be activated. When I mean the right spot, we have set it up, for example, on acknowledgements to use the customer email address, but it could be that you may have a different area that you store your email addresses, and that would have to be determined. On average, we have taken about 40 hours to develop each form, and it's all because of the complexity that has been built in to the forms themselves. And so it takes a while to develop, let's say, a PO form. That one actually took many more hours than 40, but on average, it's been about 40 hours per form. So if you were to develop all same 5 forms, we'd be talking somewhere around 200 hours of development time internally to just build out the forms that you can buy with this one package. In the future, we are already keying up a few other areas that need to be developed. And so we're going to be developing the IFM AP checks, as well as the interface to the enterprise financial checks and 1099 forms. We are also got on the plate to do the AR statements. And beyond that, we are going to see what kind of forms are being requested by our customers to determine which one should come next after the next 4. Our support will be starting at 9.2. We've developed all the forms based on the 9.2 XA standard formats. And from this point on, we will do current release -1. In other words, if I'm at 9.2 and they go to 9.3, we will support 9.2 and 9.3. When they go to 10, it will be 10 and 9.3 and so on. So we're always going to be current plus and -1. Any new forms that we develop will become customers' forms if they have an active ALF. And any changes that are made to the XA standard formats will also be automatically provided to customers, so that way you can move along with XA as it progresses through releases. So just a quick snapshot, and because this information will be available, I thought I'd have a show and tell on the different types of information that might change on every single form. So on the acknowledgement, we have a section up at the top, which is the logo. We've also got a little bit off to the right an ordered acknowledgement. This is not an invoice. That information might be changeable. It's an image. The watermark that we got on the back might be replaceable. So there's certain information that can either be included or excluded very quickly or changed, and that would be a part of what you would get on a standard acknowledgement. For the invoices, we have similar type of information, but down at the bottom we have like a terms and conditions statement, which could be changed to meet your needs. The same scenario goes for purchase orders, where we've got the logo at the top, but we've got some pretty detailed terms and conditions down at the bottom that would probably not fit most customers and would have to be changed. And the same goes on the packing slip. And then, of course, there might be some adjustments as far as how folks may want to see the form of the check print that occurs. Now, where I've got all the ones, that is actually a micro type of print, but to protect checking accounts, we made sure that you just couldn't read it. So I'm ready now at this point to turn this over to Vic Belebczyk, who has probably spent more time in InterForm's design and workflow than most anyone in the XA world. He has been instrumental in all the forms that that we have built out, and he has designed, developed, and built all the workflow orchestrations that we use at our customer sites. He is extremely knowledgeable. He's considered our guru, and to the point where he has provided InterForm themselves with numerous enhancement requests and solutions to improve the InterForm product so that it works very well now with multi-format XA printer files. So turning this over to Vic at this point, and he will step you through a real live demo.
Vic, you are now presenting.
All right, thank you, Carlos. Hi, everybody. My name is Vic Belebczyk. I am going to be doing the show and tell portion of this webinar. And before we get into the specifics, I wanted to take a moment because as a technical type person, I'm always curious, how does this all work? So for the technical people that are watching, I want to spend a few seconds just to give you a background on how the whole InterForm engine works behind the scenes. So what happens is when you buy the products, there are some products that are installed on the IBM server. And what they do is they create a special type of printer file from the standard XA print program. That printer file actually ends up looking like XML code. And it then is generated into an actual XML document. That document is used by an InterForm template, and we're going to see today what templates look like, how they're designed and changed. And so that template formats what that XML looks like to come up with the output. And that output, of course, as we've learned already, can go directly to a printer or it can be a PDF, and that PDF can be archived on your IFS, it can be FTP'd to another server, it can be email. So that being said, on my screen, I have the other piece of software that gets installed. This software is used to design the templates. It's not installed on the IBM server, it's installed on a PC. So we're looking at the actual designer on my laptop, which I use to design what you see in front of you, the order acknowledgement. So as a quick introduction to how what the designer looks like, there are 3 different panes. The pane on the left is the actual template that we are creating and changing. On the far right is the actual XML document that gets created by InterForm. This is the actual output fields from the standard or your own custom XA print program. And so what you see in the middle then, this large screen is an actual previewer that shows you on the fly what your output will look like as you're building it. So let's play around and see what kind of damage we can cause. I am going to make this a little bit larger. As you can see, you can zoom in and out. Oh, before I forget, the reason I have this field up here in the upper left-hand corner, that is actually coming from the XML document. There is a section called job information that is at the beginning of every XML document. And this particular one is the user that created this spool file. So this is the person that printed the order acknowledgement. The reason I just wanted to point this out now is that later when we talk about workflows, we're going to be talking about how this job information section is very useful. So that being said, the standard form, it was designed to look very close to the standard XA order acknowledgement form, so it's easily recognizable. The one thing that it's lacking right now is a little bit of pop. So what I'd like to do is add a logo up in this upper left-hand section. So to do that is a couple of steps. First of all, you have to define your any kind of graphics that you're using, because it's fully supporting of any type of graphic. So that's called a resource. So I have previously, I went out there and I said, okay, I've got this JPEG of a company logo, and this is where it's located at. So I can just go and find it on my PC and say, okay, I want to use it. And so I'm going to give it this name right here in the bottom text box. Once I've done that, it is now available for me to use. So what I'm going to do then is in this section right up here, I'm going to click on this little icon, which says Insert Image Element. As you can see, all the icons, if you hover on them, they give you an idea of what they're all about. So I click it, and as soon as I click it, I now have crosshairs because I can come right over to my template previewer and say, okay, the bottom left-hand corner of this graphic is going to be, let's say, right about here. Okay, so I've done that. So now I need to also say, what is that image going to be? And there should be a box coming up right now that will allow me to specify. There it is. There it is. Okay, that's just being a little slow here. Let me go back. Ah, that's better. My screen is refreshing slowly because I'm sharing my screen. So normally I don't have this type of issue with this product. It's simply because I'm displaying my screen at the same time. So now I can just say, okay, I want to add this logo. Boom, there it is. That's simple. If I want to, of course, I can drag it around and change what the location is as needed. Not difficult. So it's easy, as you can see, to do logos. Let's do something else while we're at it here. Before I forget, let's talk about barcodes. For instance, right up in this section here, it's free right now, so I can just add something. I'm going to make customer number a barcode. So what I'm doing is, if you look in this, oh, I forgot to mention, anytime you hover on or you click on a field, it shows you what the full size is of that field as it comes from the XA print program. So that helps you make sure that your spacing is good and you don't overlap fields. And also at the same time, when I clicked on it in the previewer, it found it and brought it up here in the actual template where it's used. And then this box down here shows the actual detail for that XML attribute, because that's basically what we're doing here is we're inserting XML attributes into our template. So this is the name of the field. That attribute name is actually came from the XA print program printer file. So I'm going to do a Control-C because I want to just save that. Now I'm going to come up to the upper left here. I'm going to say Insert Barcode Element. I'm going to click on that. We get our crosshairs. I'll put it over somewhere right here for now. So it created a barcode, but it doesn't know what to display there. So I click on barcode and I say, okay, what type of barcode do I want? I'm going to make it a code 128. I'm saying I don't want this to be a constant value. I want it to be the actual data coming in. So it's the XPath. And I'm going to do a paste of what that field name is because I'm too lazy to key it in. And you can see it already filled it in on screen. Just that easy. Not a big deal to add barcodes. Pretty simple, huh? Okay, let's do some more playing around. For instance, as we've already talked about this a little bit, the standard format for order acknowledgements in XA is that quantity is on one line and then right beneath it is the price. Say we didn't like that, so we can click on quantity and we can drag it over to the left, and in real time it shows us what that looks like. Pretty cool. Same thing with price. We want to make it a little bit further to the right. We can just drag it, let go. You can see what that looks like. If you need to line things up carefully, you can always go up to the top of the designer here and turn on a grid that lets you see how it lines up as far as vertically or horizontally. Now I can see here that we've got this acknowledgement watermark that's kind of in the way. So I'm going to click on it. And so then it brings it up down here in the bottom left. And I'm going to say, I want to suspend that right now. I don't want to see it. There, now it's out of the way. Now it makes it much easier for me to see, do I like the spacing or not? Okay, let's play around with it a little bit more. Some other things we can do. Say, for instance, that all the boxes and lines that you see are actually part of the designer as far as it is drawing them in real time. So it's not a imported GIF or JPEG or anything like that. So we have the ability then to change them. So for instance, this box, if we want to, we could change it. We could, for instance, change the size of the line to make it fatter if we wanted to. That's maybe a little bit too fat. Let's make it a little bit thinner. Let's make it like that. Okay, say we don't want it, it looks a little bit too squarish. We can, for instance, round the corners. So we can just say, okay, I want to round the corners, and we can give it what's the radius we want to round it. As you can see in real time, it's doing that. So you can decide on the fly, do you like it or not like it. Other things you can do, for instance, is you can change colors. So say, for instance, we wanted to make it a blue, we can do that. Now, it's not just the standard colors here in the drop-down box. Colors, you can put in hexadecimal codes for colors, so you can get virtually any color imaginable. You just have to look up what that code is. Okay, let's turn this back to black for right now. But say that this part right here, this is not an invoice. That was confusing to customers. So we want to really make it stand out. So maybe for that part of it, we can change it to be in, let's say, red, for instance. And if we wanted to, we could also say, well, right now it's in Arial. And I didn't really talk about fonts, but fonts are the true type fonts because they scale very nicely from a very small size to a very large size. You don't, they maintain their integrity and look nice in virtually any size. So all I did was I told my designer that I want to use every true type font available that came with my PC. So, but you can add your own true type fonts if you have special ones you want to use. But the main point here is I wanted to show was that if you wanted to change them on the fly, it's not a big deal. Now this red section is in a different font. You can just as easily make it bold or not bold as you want to. If you needed to, you can underline things very easily. So it gives you an idea here of the capabilities of how easy it is to change things and look at them on the fly. Okay, other things you can do is, I wanted to point out was that, for instance, you can, when I define this whole section up here, I wanted to define it as its own section. So that's why it's all in green together. Because I like the spacing in regard to that box with the headings inside of it and the fields, the date and page underneath. I like the way that they're all are set up in relationship to each other, but I recognize that it might be possible I might want to move that whole section. So I set it up as a separate section, and that allows me to go and change where that whole section is going to be on the form without changing the integrity of all the components within that section. So that's just some design features that are built into the product that you can choose to use when you design a new form. Another one, for instance, is if we look at the actual detail lines, I created a section for that called a flow area. The reason I did that was that I wanted things to be able to stay in proportion to each other, but to be able to slide back and forth as I added or changed or removed column or fields from that particular line. So for instance, the word request for request date, if I wanted to hide that, watch what happens to everything else on that same line. It automatically moved over. See that? So if I unsuspended, boom, it'll move back. So that just gives you an idea of some of the features that are built into the designer. Oh, I forgot to mention, a very important thing is if you really want to see what it looks like, you can always at any time hit this preview PDF button up here at the top of the toolbar. And what it actually then does is it creates a PDF so you can look at it. And let's make it a little smaller so you can see it better. So you can see this is what the actual output will look like. So in this case, you can see I had several different order acknowledgements that I had set up in my XML document so that I could see how that it looks like with different features as far as whether, for instance, there were comments, if there were releases. As you know, when it comes to sales orders, there's a lot of different potential features you can use or not use. So I just wanted to make sure that for this test XML document that I was incorporating a whole lot of them so I could see how my changes look. Okay, so that is a preview of how the InterForm designer works. Now, let's talk about the next thing that happens. Once you have got this template looking the way you want, with the graphics you want, with the fonts you want, the next step is, because the actual forms engine is on the IBMI server, what we do is we copy all of the things, all these attributes we're using, all of these particular objects used by this template and the template itself. We copied that up to the IBMI server and put them in the IFS because that is actually where InterForm lives, is in the IFS. It's a Java application, both the part of it that is on your laptop as well as what's on the IBMI. That's why it's a product that can actually work on many different systems. It's not just IBM specific. So once we've got them all there, all of those different attributes, then the next step is we create workflows on the server that says, how do we use this? What do we do when a user prints a particular printout from XA? So as part of the install of InterForm is a web application that it installs on your system to do the workflow management. As you can see, by default, it uses port 1885 on your IBMI, but that's changeable. This is what the login looks like. Once you log in, you see several different tabs available. And let's see, let me find my laser pointer. Okay. So one of those tabs is the workflow tab. So what is a workflow? It's really just a set of rules on something that happens when that particular condition is met. So these are the workflow rules for these forms. So we'll go through, we'll take a look at a simple one, the packing list. And then we'll look at one that's a little bit more complicated, and that's the order acknowledgement down here. So let's talk about the packing list. We'll talk about this column by column. So the first column is the rule, and that's basically just give it a name that's understandable. You can also disable that rule if you need to for testing or if for whatever reason, but it's still there so that you can re-enable it later if you need to. Then the next one, the next column over is the conditions. So this is saying, when does this rule take place? So remember we talked about in the XML document that gets created by InterForm, there is a job information section at the top of each of those XML documents. So this rule queries that section, the job information section. It's really, you can't see it here, but it says device file just like it does here. So if that device file is equal to this value, and that's actually the printer file name, the standard printer file name for the XA packing list that comes out at shipping time, that you generate at shipping time. So that's what that value is. That's the standard XA printer file. So that's when the rule takes effect, when it sees that this XML document is for the packing list. Then the action says, okay, this is what's going to occur. So what it's going to do is, we're saying this is the template we're going to use on that XML document, pack list. And then what type of output do we want? As you can see, there are many different choices here, and you're not limited to one choice. In this case, you can see I have highlighted archive and print. So at the same time, in the same step, it will send a printout of the packing list to the printer, and that printer is actually defined in the template. And then also it's going to archive it. Archive means in InterForm speak that it creates a PDF, and that PDF will reside in the IFS on your IBM I printer. But where is it going to go as far as in the IFS? That's where this metadata section comes into play. So it's saying this folder name where we're going to store the PDF is called pack list. There are many metadata keys available that you can use straight out of the box to do things like, for instance, in this case, tell it where that folder is going to be. You can also create your own metadata keys. This very first one, high dollar amounts, is one that I used, that I created, and we'll talk about that in a minute, how I used it. So that's a simple workflow for packing list. Now we'll talk about order acknowledgements. There's more going on there. For instance, we use now for the order acknowledgements, we use this transformation section. So there's a reason for that. So when you print a packing list, it generates one packing list in one spool file. So when you create a PDF, I should say in one spool file and also one XML document. So it's a one-to-one relationship. So when it creates a PDF, it creates a PDF of everything in that XML document. So up here, each packing list is a separate spool file / separate XML document / separate PDF. Order acknowledgements, on the other hand, don't work the same way. You can specify in XA that you want to print several order acknowledgements for several orders all at the same time. Well, the standard XA print program puts all those into one spool file. Therefore, it only has one XML document that gets generated by InterForm. if you're just printing, that's fine, no big deal. But if you want to create PDFs and you want each PDF to be a separate customer order, then this style sheet that we specify here is used to split the XML document so that each time it finds a new key header format. This ZB key header is actually a format that the XA print program uses. It's also in the XML document as a new node. So every time it hits that XML node, it will split off the XML document. So I'm getting in kind of deep here,
Hey,
but
Vic.
I wanted to let you know that, yes.
Oh, go ahead. I was going to say we're getting towards the hour, and I've got a couple questions that have came through, and one's specifically for you. If
Okay.
getting towards a good.
Give me 30
topic.
more seconds on this, and then we'll be done.
Perfect.
So what I did want to point out here is that there are two separate actions going on for one workflow. The reason for that is the employees want to have two different types of sales order acknowledgements get generated. The standard copy that goes to the customer, and that's what this top one is. And notice it says high dollar amounts is false. So it is the standard printout. They also wanted to have a separate version of the sales order come out, and they wanted it to have 3 copies. As you can see, that's what we specified here. And they did not want to show the price or the extended amount or the order total. So this metadata is used to say, hide those fields in the template. So the template is looking at this same metadata key for each of those fields to say whether you can show it or not show it. The nice thing about that is you don't have to create similar but different templates. You can condition one template based on the metadata key that you set in the workflow. So it's some pretty cool stuff. I know I kind of got into the weeds. So anyways, that's it for my demo. Thank you very much. And back to you, Rick.
Okay. As we're doing that, Vic, I did get a question for you. On the XA invoice acknowledgement, does the pack version separate each column or the entire lower section? When the document has the comments that are 3 to 25 characters across, that can cause issues with the separation.
I'm sorry, could you say it one more time?
It is a question on the invoice and acknowledgement asking, does the pack version separate each column, item, price, quantity, or the entire lower section? This person's referring to...
Right now...
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, right now it is set up to be as similar as possible to the standard XA form.
Okay. Let's see, we'll kind of keep going here with the questions. Does the XA FormPack work with older versions of InterForm? And Rick, you can jump on as well.
We, if you can hear
Go
me.
ahead.
Yeah, we designed it with 9.2.1 as the foundation. The forms specifically haven't changed all that much between 9, or I should say 7.8 and 9.2, but there is some differences in columns. So we'd have to take the form and do a little bit of realignment to make it work with a prior version.
Okay, and kind of just to clarify, do you have to be on XA 9.2 or greater for the FormPacks to work? We have someone asking about if they're on 9.1.
Yeah, once again, we'd have to validate the columns as to where they line up. And there may be some formats that we have not tested for in those versions that have been replaced with others that we may have to test. So it would be close, but I won't say it's 100%.
Okay. And Vic, this might be a question for you. In the designer, can you change the formatting of dynamic data points?
Wow, I'm not sure I understand what that one actually means. But go ahead, Carlos.
Yeah, to me, it would be, let's say that you could have different color coding if you have warehouse 1 versus warehouse 2. You can put in different if conditions on any of the XPath attributes that come across to make it what you want to make it.
Okay.
Yes, that's absolutely correct. You have if conditioning within the template, so you can get into a lot of different types of formatting based on the actual data coming in. So it will format it on the fly. So each one could, one could look separate from different from the next one.
Okay. Can a printed form print to multiple printers at the same time?
Yes.
Perfect. Just kind of know we're getting close. I'm running through. We've got a handful of questions here. Is Java required on laptops and PCs or just for development in the Forms pack?
If you have the designer, the only thing you load on the PC is the designer. So you would only do that if you are the person that is responsible for maintaining templates. But yes, it does require a Java runtime on the PC where you are using the designer. But
and the version
by no means.
And the version that you were seeing Vic use, we are using Java 8.
Okay. We have time for one more question. Can we create custom forms outside the standard documents like POs, invoices, and acknowledgements?
Certainly. Yes, if you have any custom forms you've done, the main thing you have to keep in mind is that it works with externally defined printer files. So, because that's what is used by InterForm to turn into XML documents. That is the only stipulation. So any custom report you have designed in-house will work.
Okay. And then I've got a couple that came through around XA FormPack. This is on my fault, but with older versions of InterForm, not to be confused with the XA version. So will the FormPack work with older InterForm versions?
As far as I am aware, they will work exactly the same with an older version.
All right.
Now we have, Carlos, I'd just like to throw in that we've been working with InterForm and put through, they have been very cooperative in putting through improvements for us in order to support some of these forms. And I'm not sure if they are taking those improvements back level. So just want to throw that.
That's a good point, Rick. I misspoke. We'd have to probably include some of the features that they've added since we took over this process back in early part this year.
Okay. And I apologize if we did not get your question answered. I do have them saved and we will email out the answer to you because we are at the top of the hour and I want to respect everybody's time here. But with that, we thank you for joining and we hope to see you in August for our next webinar on Burst and Guide ATX. Thank you all.